Welcome to Collections of Cinema.
Welcome back, everybody, with a new episode of Cock.
Cock.
Your favorite cock show.
All things cock.
Collections of Cinema. I know the cock thing is kind of old now.
Yeah, but you're the one who does it every time.
We have to maybe stop doing that, or I have to stop doing that. We did an episode 2 weeks ago that you seemed to really like. That was the Gene Hackman episode.
Royal Tenenbaums.
Royal Tenenbaums, Wes Anderson movie. And that was a great movie. And we posted on Threads I posted on Threads a couple of days ago on our Threads account. Go to Threads if you have Threads and follow us there. Also, the light is not working. Wait.
Oh.
Much better. And go over to Threads and you can participate in, questionnaires and things. You can send us a movie in the comments. You can also on Instagram what movie we should do next. And I asked, should we do Face Off or should we do The Wild Robot? The DreamWorks, I think it's a DreamWorks animation movie from last year, which was Oscar nominated. And most of you said Face Off. So here we are. Face Off. And it's funny because in German the title is Im Körper des Feindes, which means in the body of the enemy. And then like the tagline is Face Off. So we're doing Face Off. Face Off.
And also this.
Act of love and I don't know what. Face Off.
Act of love, for those of you not watching the video, they have this like really obnoxious, or John Travolta and his family have this really obnoxious like hand thing that they do where they like put their hand over the person's face and like just drag it down from the top of the forehead to the chin. And it's like an I love you kind of thing. Yeah. But it's so obviously like, I don't know, foreshadowing in some way. Also, they do it right from the beginning and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So stupid.
It's really stupid.
But I love it.
That's not the only stupid thing about the movie.
This movie is phenomenal.
So
we just put that out there.
Came out in 1997. Was directed by John Woo. John Woo, and is kind of like the.
Is it John Woo?
No, John Woo. Yeah, John Woo. Yeah, right. John Woo. And this basically one of the wooiest John Woo movie out there, and considered by many as the best John Woo movie.
What other John Woo movies are there?
I mean, he did a bunch of American movies, including Mission Impossible 2, obviously. Mm-hmm. That was like after Face Off. He did Broken Arrow. I watched Broken Arrow a couple of weeks ago. Oh, it's not great. He did The Killer, Hard Boiled, are probably like his most famous Chinese Hong Kong action movies.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an amazing film director, and the thing is, his signature style is slow motion. Pigeons or doves flying, the two guns shooting while jumping. Those are all his things. And this movie has got them all. Like, this movie has it all. So Face Off got released in 1997. Had a budget of 80 million and made 245.7 million. So nice. Pretty amazing. So this movie.
Well, let's just, starts out.
Wait, just a little disclaimer before we go into the weeds of it. Don't question anything in this movie. If you start questioning things, this movie falls apart.
Although, if you question things, do it with a sense of humor and appreciation for the fact that they still made this movie, even though it makes no sense.
And
it's
Nicolas
brilliant.
Cage and John Travolta, who star in it, who have the leading roles, are leaning so fucking heavily into the roles. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts. They give it all. Like
Yeah.
if it's an Oscar performance, it's fucking insane. This movie was also nominated for Oscars. So
It was?
It was, yeah. It was nominated for sound effects editing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought like actors.
Let's talk about the plot of the movie.
Oh boy. Well, okay. You know, this movie starts out with John Travolta on a carousel with
Sean Archer
with his kid, who's probably like, I don't know, 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah.
And then you see Nick Cage kind of like rise from the shadows. And what is his name? Something Troy. Castor Troy. It sounds like a soap opera name. Both of them.
Yeah. Sean Archer and Castor Troy.
But he is clearly trying to kill Travolta.
Yeah.
We don't know why. Obviously, it just started. But he shoots Travolta, but the bullet goes through Travolta and into his kid, and his kid dies.
Let's fucking just take that in. The first few seconds of the movie is a kid dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
And then it like instantly jumps ahead, right? Like a couple years, 6 years or something. I don't know.
6 years later,
something like that.
Yeah.
And it's then you kind of just get to like the nitty gritty of like who these people are. So obviously, Castor Troy is a criminal, and Sean, what is his name? Sean
Archer.
Archer.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Archer is a detective or police, I think detective. Yeah.
So the movie 6 years later, Sean Archer is on a vendetta to finally catch Castor Troy to make him pay for his son's death.
Mm-hmm.
And
they seem to have some intel on like where he is.
So this
finally.
insane chase on an airstrip starts where they are flying. They're trying to lift off with a private plane, but Sean Archer and the FBI basically can stop them, and this plane crashes into this hangar, and it's just fucking nuts. It's just balls to the wall, non-stop shooting action.
I mean, the whole movie is pretty much non-stop action.
And it's so that it just keeps stopping itself. Like you feel like, oh, this is the pinnacle of it. No, it's not. And it got everything. So first it's a car chasing a fucking plane.
Yep.
Castor Troy gets finally caught, and they arrest his brother, and Castor Troy is wounded but medically kept alive for now in like a coma. And they find out that there's a bomb somewhere in LA that goes off in a couple of days.
Which we saw Castor Troy set in place.
Right. And
which also iconic.
Yeah, the scene.
Nick Cage scene.
He's like
dressed up as a priest.
As a priest, walking by those nuns, and they're singing.
They're like singing.
And he just keeps grinding on one of them.
Yeah, and like saying really disgusting things to her. It's great.
Fucking nuts. So they keep Nicolas Cage character on like a
life support,
sedated,
but secretly. Yeah. There are two people in. Does he work for the FBI? Yeah. There are two people in the FBI who know.
And it's weird because it's like this scientific research thing, or like this private
like a research center.
It's a private thing, so it's a private company that does certain things, and so Sean Archer goes there and is like, why do you keep him alive? And he's like, yeah, we have this one chance to find out where the bomb is. You have to take his face and basically transform with our technology into him, so we can put you in jail and you can talk to his brother
and figure out where the bomb is.
Right.
Yeah.
So naturally,
well, he is at first reluctant to
he's totally
switch his face. And the doctor assured him, we can change your voice. So they tried to like cover their bases a little bit with the plot holes, but definitely not enough. They're like, we'll get rid of your love handles. We'll change your voice and your hair.
Yeah.
They talked about the hair transplant, or in his case, removing hair. And they're like, and we shape the face to fit your face. But can we just first discuss? Well, okay. He eventually thinks on it for a while.
Yeah.
And then tells his wife he has to go on a mission, and he can't obviously tell her anything.
Yeah.
He can't tell the FBI anything, so literally none of the officers know that this is happening. And he agrees to do it because he just wants to finally get this part of his, put that in the past. Can we just talk about for a second the difference? The difference in face shape.
Oh yeah, everything
of John Travolta
and Nick Cage.
Nick Cage has more of a thin, like, at least at this stage, like his jawline wasn't very defined, just like, a natural jawline. John Travolta has a massive chin dimple. Yeah. He has a very square jawline and a very, like, defined face. Like, his face is very, like, square.
Yeah.
So are they, like, shaving bone?
Yeah, they explain it with this fancy animation they have, which is so 90s. So they have, for everything they explain, they have, like, this animation that they made with their proportionate bodies and faces, which is outrageous alone to think about. They made this just to look at it and just to show what they're doing for him, basically, and for us, the audience, to understand this complex science, sci-fi technology. So, for me, like, the penis thing, we should talk about later. But so he says yes, he transforms, and that's where the fun starts. Because, can you stop nibbling on my crotch, please?
He's talking to the dog. Can we just point that out? So
at this point, John Travolta is Nick Cage. So Nick Cage basically acts as John Travolta's character, and all of a sudden,
and then also, not only that, can we just point out the brilliance of this? Because Nick Cage not only has to take on the persona of John Travolta as best he can, but he also has to take on the persona of Nick Cage, like, as if John Travolta were acting as, as if he weren't already that character. So that's also, imagine how hard that is.
And the thing is, I think that's the brilliance of the movie. That's why the movie is good.
Yeah.
Because the acting, like, they lean so heavily into the acting that they make it. This movie only works because they make it real.
Yeah.
Obviously, not all of their decisions are, like, realistic, and all of there are some very questionable writings and directions that they head into, and it feels like, and that's what it was apparently. So the idea came from, like, the writers. One of the friend had, like, an accident where one of them had to taking his face off to get it reconstructed and put it back on. So that was the initial idea, and that's how the movie started out, and that's how it feels like, where they had this cool idea of face swapping, but they didn't really go into the psychological effects of it so much, but they touch on it in the movie, but then again go directions where it's just fucking outrageous, where, like, if you really think about it, it's just sick to the core what's happening.
Yeah.
So going back, Nick Cage wakes up out of the coma all of a sudden and finds out without his face on, which is fucking hilarious.
It's great. He's, like, laying there with these bandages all over his face, and
he takes them off, like, goes up to a mirror,
and then he touches his face, and there's, like, blood on his fingers, and then he goes to the mirror and he, like, freaks out for a second in a very good Nick Cage fashion, and then he sees John Travolta's face just, like, chilling there,
and then he's like, this video that they took apparently from the operation, from the surgery. And he figures out, okay, that's what they did. They stole my face and my identity, basically. But now I'm going to do the other thing. I'm going to pressure the doctors to put John Travolta's face. He forced
the doctor to do that, and then he burned everybody alive.
Yeah, but there's one thing. So he is in the institution waiting for his accomplice to bring in the doctors to do the procedure.
Yes.
And he's just sitting there smoking a cigar or smoking a cigarette while having no face and lips. How are you smoke a cigarette without lips?
Well, not only that, can we also just talk about the fact that his face is exposed to the elements, like, without skin.
Yeah.
And that would be excruciating. Yeah. Like that. And with the smoke, that's like you're getting so many infections.
So funny.
Oh, good Lord. But so at this point, John Travolta is the only person alive who knows, and Nick Cage is the only person who knows that this happened because he is now, as Nick Cage's character, he's in prison to try to get information. Yeah. And which we also need to talk about the thing with the brother, because that's fantastic. Yeah. But he's in prison now, and nobody in the prison knows. They all assume that it's Nick Cage. They all think it's him. And the only two people now who knew about the switch, who could have switched him back, are dead.
Yeah. And also at this point, we have Nick Cage's character as Archer Troy as John Travolta. So John Travolta is now
not Archer. Sean
Archer. Sorry, I just mixed them up. Sean Archer now is Nick Cage's character. Mm-hmm. So Nick Cage acts batshit crazy, a little toned down as Sean Archer, and it's fucking amazing. So Nick Cage, like all of a sudden, John Travolta is acting as if he is Nick Cage, but toned down a little bit, but
still with like that hint of crazy.
Yeah. And he does a great job.
See, when we were watching it, you were like saying that Nick Cage does a way better job than John Travolta. I agree that Nick Cage does a better job, but I think give credit where credit is due, because John Travolta also does a phenomenal job.
He does a great job.
I don't think he does as good of a job capturing Nick Cage as this person, but he does a really good job of capturing the Troy, whatever, Castor Troy.
But that's the thing. When you watch the movie, at some point you see Nick Cage as John Travolta. As Nick Cage. So Nick Cage is acting as if John Travolta would be in his body.
Yes.
And you believe it.
You do believe it.
Like the way he moves, the way he talks, the way he...
Absolutely.
He is totally impersonating John Travolta, and he's so fucking good at it. And then on the other side, you have John Travolta acting as Nick Cage, and there are hints and scenes that are great, but overall it's still John Travolta.
There was one moment in particular, I can't remember what he said now, but there was one moment in particular where he did like an absolute Nick Cage, like the way that he moved when he said a certain word. I'm like, that was Nick Cage. Like he did really cool. It was really cool. Yeah.
We shouldn't go through all of the story block points because it's so fucking outrageous.
But I do want to talk about the brother for a minute.
Let's talk about the brother, and then let's talk about the family of John Travolta. Okay.
So the brother. I want to talk about the brother. This is Castor Troy's brother, who was like his accomplice, and he's in prison. And so now John Travolta, but looking like Nick Cage, is now in prison and finds his brother. Yeah. And because he has been following, Sean Astor has been following Castor Troy, this, for years and years and years, he knows so much about him. So he could easily, communicate with the brother and, be tested and get away with it. But this is the thing. His brother, maybe it's just because they tried to write him as like a crazy paranoid kind of guy.
Like that,
but instantly, before they even talk,
he's super suspicious.
They cut to a shot of his brother looking at this interaction happening from far away with his brother, and he's suspicious.
Yeah, like instantly.
And you're like,
how? Do you know anything about the technology that nobody knows about, or what the fuck is going on?
And then even when he like starts talking to him, he's like basically saying without saying, you're not. Did you switch your face?
You're not my real brother. What happened? Who are you? Yeah, it's so funny.
It's so funny. And then he like tested him and asked him a question that like only his brother could possibly know. Like, what medication did I take for whatever? And he got it right because he knew all the stuff about him. And then he kind of calmed down a little. Yeah. But then when it came out, like when he was finally able to tell him, like, because you know it ends up that John Travolta's as Nick Cage has to stay in prison, and then Travolta as Nick Cage gets his brother out. That it's like just like normal. It's like, oh yeah, we switched faces. Like, oh yeah,
there's no like.
I thought so.
I was already aware of that. Yeah, it's so funny.
I love it so much.
So John Travolta's character has a family. He has the son obviously died.
Mm-hmm.
He has a daughter who is like 15, 16, something
Mm-hmm.
like that, and he has a wife. And so Nick Cage comes back home as
so
John Travolta.
problematic.
And so first thing, he fucks the wife, obviously. So he has sex with the wife, and that's
But did he?
yeah. He said it in the movie.
He said it, but we never saw it.
I mean, I assume so
And
because he was very
He
flirty
said it
and stuff.
to get under John Travolta's skin.
Maybe, but we assume that he did because
Okay. I assume that he didn't.
that was a week. There was weeks, and he was very flirty and stuff. So we assume that he did. And that's the penis problem that I have. So let's just say they switched bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly they didn't mold his penis to be the same penis as.
But we also don't know that because they had to have taken fat off of John Travolta and then put fat on Nick Cage.
I know. Oh, it's so. What fat did they put on? Did they just like produce fat, or did they have some?
No, they took
labor
John
on-
Travolta's fat and put it on.
Oh, sure.
There are so many things that are unanswered.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. When you first said the thing about the penis, because when we were watching it, Boyfie was like, but wouldn't she know? Like, she's been with this guy forever and, you know, they have sex, and wouldn't you just be like, that's not my husband's penis? And I told you, Boyfie, I was like, I think you're...
Look,
I think you're putting too much thought into how different penises
thing is,
are
I
and feel.
But I get that, like, the average penis obviously is average, so you wouldn't probably feel a difference. But
unless there is a massive
that's what
difference.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
But you don't know.
I don't know, but we could assume that John Travolta's penis is tiny and Nick Cage's is massive, or at least average to big.
I would have said John Travolta's is massive.
See, I don't think so.
Because he's like a big guy.
Yeah,
He's
but
like
he compensates because
not heavy guy.
No,
but
but
he's a
he
big
has
guy.
to compensate, you know, because he has a tiny penis. That's just my
I don't
guess.
think so.
But let's assume that's the
Have you
case.
seen his performance in Grease? That's totally BDE.
Let's assume that he has a small penis.
Okay.
Or one of them has a small penis.
Okay.
So it doesn't translate.
Yes.
Oh, your penis grew all of a sudden. It's bigger.
Yeah, he's the Austin Powers Swedish penis pump.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And so the more problematic scene is with the daughter. So
Whew.
John Travolta as Nick Cage. Nick Cage
Other
as
way.
John Travolta comes
Yes.
back to the family and sees the daughter, and he's like sexually
Okay.
drawn to the daughter, which
The
is
daughter,
fucking
first of all, the way
problematic.
it's filmed is problematic because this is supposed to be a teenage girl.
Yeah.
And the daughter is standing in her bedroom,
Yeah.
like leaning over her desk or whatever on the phone, I think,
Yeah.
in her underwear.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just very obvious, like, this is what we're supposed to be staring at and admiring. It's not, you know. And then Travolta comes in, but
I mean,
Nick Cage as Travolta.
the view is from Nick Cage's perspective, so that's what he sees. That's what
Sure.
he is gazing at.
But then he's like hitting on his daughter.
He's not only hitting on her; he wants to fuck her.
Yeah. And it's real gross.
It's fucking gross.
And she's like laughing because she
Yeah.
thinks he's being, oh, silly dad.
yeah. And then there's the scene where they smoke cigarettes together, and he's still kind of hitting on
He's
her.
so gross.
And it's just so fucking
And
problematic.
the thing is, like, I get why they wrote that in there because they want you to feel like, fuck, like, ugh.
Sure.
Like, that's exactly the reaction I hope that they were going for, and not like, well, he's so badass. I really hope. But in the 90s, you never know. But I'm just like, how sick do you have to be to even think to write that scene in there?
Yeah.
Because it's not a necessary part of the
No.
scene. It definitely adds to the,
It
wow,
adds-
I hate this character. Like,
It adds to
What
Nicolas
an
Cage's
asshole.
character, yeah. Because he
what
is
a
gross
sick
asshole,
fuck.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't need it to know that
No,
that's how he
but
is.
the bigger thing is, I think, the reveal at the end where it finally comes out that Nick Cage is not Nick Cage and John Travolta is not John
Yeah.
Travolta. And at first, the wife has a very realistically
I
kind of
liked,
reaction.
yeah, she was great.
But let's skip to the end quick, where he comes back as himself. So John Travolta
Yeah.
comes back as himself, and the family knows that the John Travolta
Yeah.
that was back in the house for weeks
Yeah.
was not the
Yeah.
real John Travolta. So it was this gross
Yeah.
fucking murderous guy. And they're just fine, I guess.
No,
there is
what-
no psychological
No,
effect.
no,
And then
no.
all of a sudden, he brings the boy in.
Oh, wait, but we'll get to the boy.
Oh, man.
There's something more problematic that I think is at hand here. When she first finds out, the wife, when she first finds out and she doesn't believe him, and then she goes, he gives her like a thing to take a blood sample. Like it's like a little prick thing. So basically when he's sleeping, she takes a blood sample that he just doesn't feel. And then she goes to the lab in the middle of the night. And Nick Cage / John Travolta, looking like Nick Cage, is just there. Like, he's just lurking in the hospital. Like, how did he get in there? How did he get in her lab? Anyways, and then they're talking, and then she sees in the blood work, it's right, because that actually did happen. So now she's trying to like come to terms with this. By the end of that scene, she kisses him. Right? This is more problematic for me because this is the face. This is not the face of your husband that you have to like kind of re-get used to. Oh, he's not a murderer. This is the face of the man who killed your son and tried to kill your husband. And you're like making out with him. That's more problematic. I would not be able to do that.
It's just there's so much trauma to be like this. There is a sequel coming.
I can't fucking wait.
And the sequel could just be working through the trauma still after years.
It won't be. No. But I'm interested to see what it is because they already switched
the ending.
back.
Let's go back to the ending again. So Nicolas Cage has a character. We found out in the middle of the movie that he has a character with this woman.
A relationship with this woman.
And he has a son. Woman, and he doesn't know at first that's his son, but it comes out that it's his son, and he's kind of.
But he didn't ever find out. The actual Nick Cage never found out.
But John Travolta finds out. And he likes him. He wants to protect him because he's a little boy, and he reminds him of his son.
Same
and then
age.
At the end, he just brings him home like, "This is our new pet dog." And I'm like, what the fuck? Also, this is the son of the killer of our son. And they're like, oh, I'm replacing our son now with this guy.
And I don't think it was meant like that.
No, but that's how it seems.
Yeah.
The way it's shot, the way it's staged, it's just
but
so
it's
weird.
It's really funny the way that it goes down because it's not like a discussion like, hey, do you want to adopt a kid? It's, hey, I brought this kid.
Yeah.
Look at him in the face. Do you want to keep him? It's not like he doesn't really give her a choice. And it's funny to me.
There's also this fucking insane boat chase at the end.
There's everything in this movie.
So
I feel
nuts.
like the only thing we're missing is like a horse chase.
A car chase, a proper car chase is
but
missing.
a car chase is a airplane.
Yeah, but a proper car-to-car chase is missing, but everything else is there. Let's go to the production a little bit because it's super interesting. So it was a spec script in 1990 by Mike Werb and Michael Collery. And that was the thing that I already said, the hang gliding accident with one of the friends' face has to be removed. So it was a spec script, and that's just how it feels a little. Like it feels at the core, that was just this idea, and they built upon the idea, and some things work, some things don't, especially if you question them. So Castor Troy and Sean Archer were not necessarily Nick Cage and John Travolta at first, but they had also Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, which would have been a cool duo. Michael Douglas and Harrison Ford. Imagine that. 90s Michael Douglas and Harrison Ford. Alec Baldwin and Bruce Willis.
No.
I think there's so many versions of the movie I kind of want to see.
Thing.
Johnny Depp wanted to play Sean Archer, but passed the role after reading the script. And then John Woo instead hired John Travolta and Nicolas Cage to play those characters.
Okay, but this is the thing.
Oh, man.
This movie would not be this movie without John Travolta
Imagine Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, it would be horrible. No, it would be horrible.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It would be so awful. The one thing that I said that I think you will agree with is if it were Stallone and Schwarzenegger, okay?
That would be hilarious.
No, listen. You wouldn't understand any of the dialogue. Just imagine the dialogue with Sly.
That alone would be so funny.
And Arnie.
Yeah.
90s Arnie.
Also, Arnie was so massive. I mean,
it would
Stallone
never work.
was massive too, but Arnie was just this.
It would just be 2 hours of and give me your face.
Nah, the problem is
I can't do Arnie.
With most of those actors, they're not character actors. Michael Douglas maybe a little bit, but all of the other actors are not. They're great actors. Don't get me wrong, but they're not that level. But like Nick Cage is a fucking insane chameleon.
Yeah, but that's what I was just saying. He's Rage Cage.
He disappears in characters. And John Travolta is great. He
also disappears in characters.
He disappears in characters once in a while.
I would say more than once in a while. A lot of the movies I've seen with him, he becomes
the music.
a character.
Interesting fact: the music was composed by John Powell and produced by Hans Zimmer. And I kind of like it. I like the score and I like the soundtrack. And again, it was critically very well received. And there's a sequel that apparently is going to be directed by Adam Wingard and is happening at any point. And apparently John Travolta and Nick Cage are coming back, even though Nick Cage died at the end. I don't know.
But did he die? I don't think we actually, we saw him get stabbed, but, we already established in this movie there are lots of doctors out there who can do lots of crazy things.
Right.
So, we'll see.
Yeah, this, honestly, if you've
not seen... Or maybe he
seen...
has a twin that we don't know about.
Or the brother. Oh, he died too. The brother died too.
Brother died too.
Maybe they can clone him based on like a little speck they find somewhere.
In the lab, they found something like in the debris and they can clone him.
So if you've not seen Face Off,
it's great.
It's a fucking wild,
it's
obnoxiously crazy movie, but it's great.
Yeah.
And the thing is, again, I can't really pinpoint why it's great. There are so many aspects why it's
everything
great,
we just said in this podcast is why this movie is
so many
great.
But at the same time, there's so many aspects that are so fucking wild that you question while you watch the movie, like, what the fuck is going on?
I love it.
But it's a great fucking movie. Let's go to movie of the week.
Movie of the week.
It's hard because we didn't watch that many movies, which is kind of sad. We watched Borderline. We watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. We
Another
watched
Rage Cage.
Hunchback of Notre Dame and Venom: The Last Dance.
That's it.
We didn't watch that many movies. Venom was already...
In 2 weeks, we only watched 4 movies.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have we watched a lot of shows?
Borderline was not great.
Nah, I hated Borderline.
It was just not...
Based on that list, I would do Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Me too, and it fits with the theme.
Fits with the theme, yeah. It's
Rage Cage.
It's a Nick Cage movie where he plays Nick Cage, and... Nick
like
Cage
an exaggerated version,
right?
/ kind of false version.
And Pedro Pascal, and so technically Nick Cage is like at the end of his career, kind of, or like at a pit stop where he doesn't really know what to do, and so this opportunity comes along where Pedro Pascal's character invites him for his birthday party for $1 million to fly out to Spain,
and he's hoping to get like this role of a lifetime, and so he's like, I'm not going to take a birthday party that's degrading, and then he doesn't get this role.
Yeah, and then he takes this. And so he goes out there and he finds himself in the midst of like a CIA operation where they try to find like this missing woman from this drug lord, and Pedro Pascal is apparently this drug lord, but they hit it off. Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal, like, they become best buddies. And it's a fucking amazing comedy.
It is. It's great. It's like a buddy cop comedy without being a buddy cop comedy. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And it's funny. It's witty. Nick Cage plays not only one version of himself, but multiple versions. And it's just a very heartwarming...
His Nicky alter ego is great.
Yeah. It's the Nick Cage from the Wild at Heart version. Or Wild at Heart 1990 Nick Cage, basically. It's great. I would highly recommend the movie if you have not seen it. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent 2022 came out. And especially if you're a Nick Cage fan, you've seen it. If you're not seen it, but you don't mind him, then still watch it. Ike Barinholtz is in it. Tiffany Haddish is in it. Neil Patrick Harris is in it. Demi Moore has a fun cameo. It's a cool movie.
Yeah.
Shot in Spain on location. It's beautifully shot. Yeah,
it's great.
Do you have any face-off?
I didn't look at Letterboxd yet.
Because there are some really fun ones. Did they also swap dicks? Cause like she'd notice, right?
Written by a man, right?
Yes, James Su. let me get this straight. Nick Cage wakes up from a coma without a face, sees John Travolta's face floating in a jar and thinks, yes, I need that.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Nicolas Cage and John Travolta switch faces and spend almost 2.5 hours trying to kill each other. This is a 5-star movie.
I want to take his face off.
Some families hug, some families kiss, and some families just rub their hands on each other's faces.
My favorite thing about this film, and trust me, I have a lot of favorite things about this, is that who actually got Travolta to see the line, well, think about me, this nose, this hair, this ridiculous chin. Yeah.
Nicolas Cage saying, I could eat a peach for hours seductively is
Oh,
the worst
no.
possible thing I could have heard.
Oh, no. That scene. Oh, man. Okay, everybody, that's it. That's our show. Please support us.
Wait, sorry, the last one.
What? Okay.
This is my Citizen Kane.
Oh, wow. That's a statement. Thank you again. Please support us on Patreon. That helps us a lot. If you want to support us there, there's a free tier, there's a $5 tier, and then a $10 tier. You get things out of it. For example, a shout out like Joe. Thanks, Joe, for being a Patreon member.
Thanks, Joe.
Head over to YouTube. Please support us there too. Just subscribe. If you don't watch us on YouTube, but just still, please subscribe there. You can comment there. You can rate the podcast on Apple and Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And you can please also subscribe there if you are able to.
Yeah.
That's it, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, Adele Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem.
The wickedly talented
Adele Dazeem.